What's the one thing you regret doing for your wedding day? Registering for GD China. I didn't want it. Knew we would never use it. Received everything. Never have used it in 25 years. At this point, try just using it for mundane purposes. It's surprisingly fun to eat boring mundane things off of very expensive china. It's just sitting gathering dust, so use it for fun. My number one regret is telling people not to take pictures. I know it sounds dumb, but it is much worse than that. In our agreement with our photographer, she told us that other cameras were not allowed as the flash from another camera could ruin our pictures. So we politely told people to refrain from taking pictures and explained the situation. We had a great wedding and the photographer even sent an extra photographer to work the wedding. 2 instead of 1. A few weeks after we tried contacting her for the photos, we got ghosted. We tried for about a year to track her down. We were still willing to pay for the photos, even unedited. We just wanted the photos. Fortunately, some people didn't get the message, so we have a few 10-20 photos from our wedding. The worst part was that someone had contacted my wife through FB 2 weeks before the wedding warning us about her, but we decided to take the risk because there probably was no way to get another photographer in that kind of time. When she showed for the date, we were relieved and thought we dodged a bullet. Letting my mother-in-law have any say in anything. She ruined the food. Not having our grandmas as flower girls. We didn't have anyone to be flower girls, and I didn't think of asking grandmas until way after the wedding. Having an outdoor wedding in August in South Carolina. Timing necessitated it. Otherwise, I love my wedding and love my wife. Better than my cousin having a wedding in Wisconsin in January. We went down to the lakefront of Lake Michigan to take pictures. The pictures turned out like crap cause everyone was freezing. Not having a good breakfast. We got married early in the day on a beach and all I could think about was how much I wanted a breakfast sandwich with eggs, cheese, and bacon on a toasted English muffin with just a touch of hot sauce. Paper invitations and RSVPs. Set up a wedding site and have people RSVP there. The amount of stress I put myself through trying to get paper mailed back to me in an era when no one uses mail anymore was so unnecessary. At one point we'd gotten very few RSVPs back and I had a total crying meltdown about how no one was going to come. Of course they were going to come. It's just no one uses mail anymore. Save yourself the headache and the money. It's my biggest wedding regret. 100% agree. We spent over $400 on paper invites. Way too much. It's nice to have paper, but I totally agree with the online RSVP. This will sound petty, but I regret wearing my hair up. It felt so unlike me and the sticky layers of hairspray wouldn't brush out when I got undressed that night. My wife was still finding pins in her hair 3 days later. I bet you looked great though. I've been married for 16 years now, so this is a little old school. We bought a bunch of disposable cameras and set them all over the place at our reception with a note on them that said take some pictures. At the end of the night we collected all the cameras and had the film developed. Most of them turned out really cool and we got some pictures we would have never thought of taking. The regret comes in me underestimating some of my friends' ability to be adults for one night and ended up with a lot of dong pics also. I'm guessing a lot of people getting married today could just set up our Instagram account and just have everyone upload cell pics to it. Ha, we did this too. Our problem was the lighting was dark enough that the pictures just didn't turn out great. There is actually an app website called Wedpics or something like that, where everyone can upload pictures from their phone and they can be seen by anyone who has the code. Not taking a picture. We just did a quick wedding for legal purposes with my friend presiding and aunt and uncle as witnesses. It was a nice little sweet ceremony that lasted about 10 minutes over a nice area with a view before we went to dinner. Didn't realize we hadn't taken any pictures until like a week later when we wanted to show someone. Whoops. Letting other people help pay. As soon as that happens they take over the wedding. Guest list, decor, cake, everything. Uncle offered to pay for the limo. Great. But it turned out to be this busted 1980s limo with a spider-webbed window and no hubcaps. What looked like a homeless driver. He literally went on Craigslist and got the cheapest one with no research. We called an Uber. In-laws offered to pay for half of the catering, which is how our guest list was 70 people but 200 plus showed up. Would have been fine if they would have told us so we could adjust catering, but no. We had to have the caterers adjust on the fly and drag some tables out of storage. And then we had to order pizza for the rest. People we actually wanted there were eating fricking pizza on dusty tables. Other uncle offered to pay for airfare for the honeymoon. Which is how our 18-day trip turned into 12 days because that was the cheapest ticket. Brother-in-law paid for the wine, which actually turned out fine. But we didn't have enough because of all the completely unexpected guests. All we wanted was a smallish celebration with 75 people, and to have an awesome wedding. But we wound up with a big celebration that was kind of mediocre, and really stressful. In-laws actually told us we could not say hi to our actual friends because then we'd have to go to each table and say hi to everyone to be fair. Which would have took 2 hours. Which caused an argument. Maybe your families aren't that type. But I wish we had just did our own thing and not accepted any help. If I could go back in time and do it over, I'd have included dancing with my dad this time. The story: we got engaged and started planning a wedding that was to take place 1 year later. 2 months after engagement, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. We moved up the wedding by 6 months, and thankfully were able to get our deposits back. My aunt had a large home, and to spend as little as possible, my parents needed all the money they could to pay the bills since my dad couldn't work due to his treatment, and he'd owned his own business. We got married at a home with 70 guests plus a bridal party of 12. Husband has 3 brothers, I have 1, and both of our best friends are men. So that was 6 guys and had to have 6 girls then. It was a bit crowded so we didn't have room to plan for dancing. My father walked me up the aisle for the ceremony, and that was my goal in moving the wedding forward. I wish I'd have had us do a father-daughter dance, though, even if we didn't have other dancing. My dad died 3 months later. Making cupcakes instead of buying a cake. We did a lot of DIY, made the beer and mead for toasts, assembled flowers and centerpieces, because it was cheaper but also we like making things. But the cupcakes, in retrospect, were a ton of work and not that great. I regret the coordinator they gave us for the ceremony. Dude got flustered and started second guessing everything right before the ceremony. Like he somehow forgot how a wedding works at the last moment, when all of our guests were there. OMG, what song do you want to play while she walks down the aisle? I dunno, dude. The one everyone walks down the aisle to. The wedding song. The one we already told you to play. I ended up taking charge and sorting everything out. Really wish I could have just gone with the flow on my big day. Not preparing a speech. I thought I'd just go up, thank everyone for coming and sit back down. Short and sweet. Get it out the way. That's exactly what I did, without mentioning my parents or my wife. I did the same. Normally a very good public speaker, but a couple of champagnes down and the excitement of it all, I did not deliver. Inviting people I didn't really want to invite. They just cost you money, you don't interact with them at all, and they usually don't bring a nice gift to make up for it, except for letting all of the divorced aunts and uncles bring +1s, because that led to a whole jealousy competition train that was extremely entertaining. Gave a heartfelt speech that ended with a joke, the punchline being, and your presence here means almost as much as the envelopes you brought with you. Crickets. I still cringe. So the one thing I'm wicked glad we didn't always advise people to do is take a moment to enjoy it. After we ate and went around saying hi to all the tables, we took like 5 minutes, while everyone else was finishing dinner, and went and sat outside. It may have been brief, but it really allowed us to appreciate what was going on and enjoy each other for a second. The preacher started coaching me on what's next as my gorgeous bride-to-be was walking down the aisle. I did not get to take in what was the most beautiful woman I ever saw walk down the aisle because I was trying to pay attention to what he was saying. My preacher made me tear up. He kept whispering at me while at the altar, "Look at her. Right now she's the most beautiful woman in the world and you get to spend the rest of your life with her. You are a lucky, lucky man." By the time she made it to the altar, she saw me about to weep like a schoolgirl and had no clue why. There were a couple people that we decided to not invite. More accurately, we needed to cut a few after booking the hall and realizing how many we could fit in the room. I didn't realize how hurt those few people would be. They brought it up years later. I still feel bad about it. My wife's uncle and his wife are horrible people and they brought people that weren't even invited and basically forced them into their already full table. It was awkward. I regret inviting them and not inviting the hurt friends that I mentioned above. Not hiring a photographer. We thought we'd save money and just ask friends to take lots of pictures. They took some, but I have maybe 5 pictures worth looking at. No pictures of the cake or table settings. I kind of remember what they look like. The only decent pic of my husband and I has our flower girl in it. She's sweet and I love her, but it looks like she's our kid. Every time people see the photo they're like, I didn't know you had an older child. Hire a photographer, people. Not paying attention to the photographer more. We gave him a list of things he needed to shoot for portraits, and he forgot to get a picture of me, my wife, and my parents. I was going to say this. I feel bad that we didn't get a picture of just my husband and his dad together. He has pictures with both his parents and with his mom, but not with just his dad. We just assumed all the family photos would happen naturally, but when there's so much to do in a few hours, that doesn't always happen. My dress. I knew what I wanted, but I just went with something on sale even though I felt uncomfortable in it. I wish I had been a little more pushy on what I wanted to wear, and I wish we hadn't included my husband's siblings as they are awful people. After the wedding we went to our reception, the wedding party, etc. Had their own theme songs to come out to. Then comes out my wife and I. We had a few drinks in us by this point. We were supposed to do a whole dance entrance type of thing. I can't dance, so I got nervous and reverted to grinding my wife in front of 300 people. That was the most cringe-worthy moment of my life. Renting a nice room in a fancy hotel, and then expecting to frick when we were both just absolutely fricking exhausted. Don't get me wrong, my wedding day was possibly the best day of my entire life, but it would have been just the teensiest bit better if we'd gotten some charming bed and breakfast and not forced ourselves to have tired intercourse at like 1 in the morning. Turns out fancy ass hotel rooms are basically just like a clean version of non-fancy ass hotel rooms. Not that my poor butt would have known that beforehand. The trick is to sneak away and frick during your wedding. I really wish we had the ceremony videotaped. We spent a decent chunk of money on the photographer, and our photos look great. We didn't think we wanted a video at the time, but a year and change later I really wish we did. Not paying for a cleaning company at my venue. My wife and wedding party had to still 2 hours later to clean up to get our deposit back. Could have been worse. None of the guys in my brother's wedding party decided to help clean, so it was me and the bridesmaids. That sucked. My husband and I surprised people with our wedding. We invited his parents, my parents, and a few friends over for dinner and announced we were getting married. I don't regret any of that. What I do regret is allowing his mother in the bathroom with me while I finished getting ready. She spent a good 30 minutes telling me how I was ruining her son's life because I can no longer have children. I was so badly shaken by all of the bulls that when it came time for I said yeah, sure, I guess. What a bee. My wife and I got married at Pinstripes last month. Pinstripes is a really upscale bowling, bocce and bistro bar. Awesome place. We went to an event beforehand there which had a few giveaways. We won free bowling for our Sunday brunch, but really wanted to win the free gelato bar. But that went to another couple. Fast forward a few weeks later, our planner tells us the couple that won the gelato bar had to back out from booking with Pinstripes, likely too expensive. But our planner loved us and wanted us to have the gelato bar. Yes, I'm a huge ice cream fan and toiled over the flavor choices. My wife and I went back and forth more on this than any other decision in our wedding. In the end we picked out 3 flavors, but wound up getting 4 at the wedding. I didn't even see the gelato bar at the wedding. I was so excited for it, but we were too busy with everything else that we completely missed it. Our guests loved it, especially my nephews. They were smart little brats who asked aunts and uncles at different tables to bring them up for their first cup of gelato, even though they just finished eating a cup. Didn't bowl at brunch either, but I freaking loved my wedding. It was so much fun. Hiring my wife's friend as the DJ. We gave him simple cues and songs, which he completely fricked up. and then went on to play Hindi dance music for the Indian segment of the dancing instead of Bhangra as very explicitly instructed. Worst of all, our first dance was to that crappy song from Ghost instead of Dance Me to the End of Love as requested. Frick that guy. Not hiring an Elvis impersonator. Flew all the way to Vegas to get married, didn't get Elvis. Oh well. I regret not hiring a videographer. We have pictures, but it would be nice to watch a video even of just the ceremony on our anniversary. I wish I had walked slower down the aisle to my, now, husband. My dad and I both naturally take long strides when we walk, so what was supposed to be a 1-2 minute long walk of suspense turned into a brisk 20-30 second stroll. Inviting 75% of the people, most of them I never see and are not involved in our lives, would have rather spent the same amount of money on 25% of the people and had one heck of a high-end party. We eloped and I don't regret that at all. When my husband and I were in our B&B room having our own personal champagne toast, I was recording it with my phone and I recorded it in vertical instead of horizontal orientation. When I uploaded it to the computer and created a whole photos video thing with footage from our ceremony, it totally ruined the aesthetic. This is my greatest regret. My biggest regret is that it all felt so rushed. We were engaged on May and got married at the end of August, having settled on a date in May. The summer was a whirlwind of planning while both of us worked full-time jobs. We got married on a Sunday in a city, Montreal, 6 hours from where we lived, Toronto. We both worked the previous Friday and were back home on Monday to leave for our honeymoon on the Tuesday, which involved a lot of driving around and then jumping back into the grind pretty much the day after we returned. In short, I would have taken a few days off work to relax and get into the holy crap I'm about to get married headspace, and I would have opted for a more relaxing honeymoon. We had lovely little wedding, small, inexpensive, informal, fun. Yet I totally regret not taking it more seriously and investing more time and money in it. I guess we were so put off by all the crazy, intense, expensive weddings we had been to in our lives. We went too far in the other direction. We had been together for 8 years at that point and didn't think marriage was going to change anything, and even having a wedding at all seemed a little silly at the time. But in the end, we realized what a beautiful, intimate thing it was, how much better it could have been, and how many more people that we love we could have shared it with. It's a great story to tell people you got married for $400 in someone's backyard, wearing a $90 dress tie with sharks all over it, with 12 close friends and family members, and then had pigs in blankets with Prosecco. But I don't think it is nearly the rich memory and special time it could have been for us. We were a little too cool for school on this one. Finally, a post I can comment on. Shave my beard, frick. This cat is shocked that you haven't liked this video yet. Like it fast so they can calm down. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.